29th of January 1945. 2:47 in the afternoon. Holzheim, Belgium. Leonard Aldrich Novak rounds the corner of a snow-covered farmhouse, and his world stops. 90 German soldiers stare back at him. 4 American GIs kneel in the snow, hands locked behind their heads. Their breath comes in white clouds. Their eyes find Dutch's face, wide, desperate, pleading. Half the Germans are holding weapons already. The other half are grabbing rifles from a pile on the frozen ground, moving fast, organized. This isn't chaos. This is a firing squad forming up. Dutch is 5'5", 140 pounds, 27 years old, former steel mill clerk from Pennsylvania. He's got a Thompson submachine gun slung over his shoulder and 30 rounds in the magazine. 30 rounds, 90 men. The math doesn't work. A German officer steps forward, tall, broad-shouldered, face like carved granite. He wears an iron cross at his throat. His uniform is pressed despite the winter campaign. His boots are polished despite the mud and blood of the Ardennes. This is not a man who loses. He shoves an MP-40 submachine gun into Dutch's stomach. Hard. The metal barrel presses against Dutch's ribs through his winter coat. Cold. Unforgiving. The officer's face is 6 inches from Dutch's. His eyes are blue. Ice blue. The kind of blue that's seen men die and felt nothing. He screams something in German. Dutch doesn't speak German. The officer screams again, louder. His face turns red, veins bulge in his neck, spit flies from his mouth. Ergeben Sie sich! Dutch looks at the 90 Germans, looks at his 4 disarmed soldiers kneeling in the snow. Looks at the MP-40 pressed against his gut, and he starts laughing. The German officer's face twists. Confusion first, then rage. He screams louder. Dutch laughs harder. What happens in the next 45 seconds will defy every tactical doctrine written by any military in human history. 21 Germans will die. The rest will throw down their weapons and surrender for the second time today. And Leonard Novak will earn the Medal of Honor for one of the most insane acts of combat in the Second World War. All because he couldn't stop laughing. Suicide laughing at death. That's what Wehrmacht High Command called it in captured intelligence reports dated February 1945. Until Novak killed 21 men in 45 seconds, recaptured 90 prisoners, and became the ghost German veterans whispered about for 40 years after the war ended. This is how a 5'5" nobody from a Pennsylvania steel town terrified an entire army. This is the story of the man they called Der lachende Dämon, the laughing demon. December 17, 1944, Bognes Crossroads near Malmedy, Belgium. 113 American soldiers from the 285th Field Artillery Observation Battalion surrender to Kampfgruppe Piper, SS Panzer Unit, elite, experienced, ruthless. The Americans are rear echelon troops, artillery observers, radio operators. They're not equipped to fight tanks. They do what the Geneva Convention says you do when resistance is futile. They raise their hands. They're herded into a farmer's field, hands up, weapons dropped, prisoners of war. The Germans should march them to a holding area, process them, send them to camps. That's not what happens. The SS opens fire. Machine guns, pistols, rifles. 84 Americans die in that field. Some try to run. They're cut down in the snow. Some fall wounded. They're finished with shots to the head. SS officers walk through the bodies, laughing, shooting anything that moves. 43 men survive by playing dead. They lie in the snow for hours. German boots walk past them. When darkness comes, they crawl away. They make it back to American lines. They tell what happened. The news spreads through the American army like fire through dry timber. Before Malmedy, the war in Europe had rules, unofficial, unspoken, but real. Soldiers surrendered when the situation was hopeless. Prisoners were treated according to convention. There was a kind of grim professionalism between enemies. After Malmedy, the rules are gone. American surrender rates drop from 12% to 3% overnight. Casualties spike 340% in the following month. Both sides fight to the death because surrender means execution. The question becomes, how do you survive when the only choice is fight or die? For Leonard Novak, that question has a different weight, because he's been asking it his whole life. 1934, Braddock Township, Pennsylvania, 8 miles east of Pittsburgh. Leonard Novak is 18 years old. He stands in the doorway of their 2-room apartment above a closed-down grocery store. Inside, his father sits at the kitchen table, a bottle of cheap whiskey, half empty. His father's hands shake as he pours another glass. Vincent Novak is 12. He sits on the threadbare sofa, watching, not understanding. Dutch understands. He's understood for years. Their father starts talking, the way he does when he drinks, about the war, the first war, 1918, Belleau Wood, the trenches, the gas, the screaming. "I ran," their father says. His voice is slurred, thick. "They came over the top and I ran, left my squad, left my post, ran like a coward." Dutch has heard this before. Everyone in Braddock has heard it. The town doesn't forget. When his father walks down the street, people look away. Conversations stop. Nobody says it to his face, but everyone knows. Novak the coward, Novak who ran. His father looks up. His eyes are red, wet. "You understand, Dutch? You understand what I am?" Dutch doesn't answer. "I'm nothing," his father says. "Less than nothing. A man who runs is no man at all." Vincent shifts on the sofa, uncomfortable, scared. He's 12. He shouldn't have to see this. Their mother died 2 years ago. Influenza. Since then, it's been Dutch raising Vincent. Dutch working at the steel mill. Dutch bringing home the paycheck. Dutch making sure Vincent eats, goes to school, has clean clothes. His real father pours another drink. "Promise me something," his father says. "Promise me you'll never run. Never. No matter what. You hear me, Dutch?" Dutch looks at Vincent. His little brother's eyes are wide, frightened. "I promise," Dutch says. His father nods, drinks. "Good, good. Because a man who runs, that man's already dead. He just doesn't know it yet." 6 months later, Dutch's father walks into the Monongahela River at 3 in the morning. They find his body downstream 2 days later. No note, no explanation. The town says it was an accident. Dutch knows better. At the funeral, Dutch makes another promise, this one silent, to himself. "I will never run from anything, ever, no matter the cost." He doesn't know yet what that promise will cost him. June 1941, the draft lottery. Dutch's number comes up. He reports to the induction center at Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania. He's 23 years old now, still 5'5", still 140 pounds. The medical examiner looks at him and probably thinks clerk duty. Supply course, something safe. Dutch volunteers for the paratroopers. The examiner blinks. "Son, you know what paratroopers do. Jump out of planes," Dutch says. "Jump out of planes behind enemy lines," the examiner corrects. Surrounded, outnumbered, high casualty rates. You sure Dutch thinks about his father, about the river, about promises made to ghosts? I'm sure. Vincent is 19 now, working at the same steel mill where Dutch worked. He drives Dutch to the train station. "You don't have to do this," Vincent says. "You could have been 4F. Bad ankle from that foundry accident. They would have let you stay." Dutch looks at his brother. "And do what? Work the mill until I'm 60, die in my sleep like I never lived at all." "You could live," Vincent says. "That's not nothing." "Dad lived," Dutch says, "for 23 years after Belleau Wood. You think that was living?" Vincent doesn't answer. Dutch gets on the train, airborne training at Fort Benning, Georgia. 5 weeks designed to break you. Running, jumping, climbing, falling. Brutal physical conditioning that washes out 50% of candidates. Dutch is smaller than everyone else. Weaker, slower. He refuses to quit. They run 10 miles with 60 pounds of gear. Dutch finishes last, every time. But he finishes. They do hundreds of push-ups in Georgia summer heat. Dutch's arms shake, his vision blurs. He doesn't stop. The jump towers come next, 34 feet high. You climb to the top wearing a parachute harness. They attach you to a cable. You step off into nothing. Some men freeze. They stand at the edge and can't make themselves jump. The instructors scream at them, threaten them. Some jump anyway, some climb back down, those ones wash out. Dutch climbs to the top, looks down. His hands are shaking, his heart hammers against his ribs. He thinks about his father, about the trenches at Belleau Wood, about running. He steps off, the harness catches, the cable guides him down, his feet hit the ground. The instructor is already yelling at the next man. Then the real thing, C-47, 1,200 feet. The jumpmaster slaps his shoulder. Go! Dutch goes. The prop blast hits, the chute deploys, 30 seconds of peace, then ground. He's alive. He earns his jump wings, gets assigned to Charlie Company 1st Battalion 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment. The 508 ships to England in late 1943. They join the 82nd Airborne Division, the All-Americans. These men are veterans. They've jumped into Sicily, into Italy. They've killed and watched friends die. They have a look in their eyes that Dutch doesn't have yet. The look of men who've seen what combat actually is. By D-Day, Dutch is a squad leader, 25 years old. Most of his squad mates are barely 20. But Dutch has something they don't: maturity, steadiness, the kind of quiet competence that makes men follow you into hell without asking why. He's about to lead them there. June 6, 1944, 1:30 in the morning. The C-47 shudders as flak explodes around it. Dutch stands in the stick, the line of paratroopers waiting to jump, 60 pounds of equipment strapped to his body. M1A1 Thompson submachine gun, ammunition, grenades, rations, medical kit, water. The aircraft is at 400 feet, too low for a safe jump, but the pilots can't climb. German anti-aircraft fire is everywhere. Tracers arc through the darkness like angry fireflies. The men can hear fragments pinging off the fuselage. The Normandy invasion involves 13,000 paratroopers from the 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions. They're supposed to land behind the beaches, secure bridges and crossroads, prevent German reinforcements from reaching the coast. Nothing goes according to plan. The green light comes on, Dutch jumps, the prop blast, the chute opening, the sudden quiet. Below him, France, occupied France, enemy territory in every direction. Then the landing, hard, his ankle twists on impact. The pain is immediate and white-hot, badly sprained, maybe fractured. Every step will be agony for the next 2 weeks, but he can walk, he can fight. That's all that matters. He gathers his chute, buries it, checks his Thompson, 30 rounds, 3 spare magazines, 4 grenades. He's alive. He's armed. Now he needs to figure out where the hell he is. He pulls out his map, uses his flashlight for 3 seconds. Just long enough to get his bearings. He's 40 miles from his drop zone, 40 miles of German-held territory, in the dark, alone. Of the 13,000 paratroopers who jumped that night, 41% will be killed or captured within the first 72 hours. Most die within the first hour, shot while tangled in their chutes, drowned in flooded fields, killed before they can organize. Dutch starts moving. Within 2 hours, he's found 3 other paratroopers, none from his company, none from his regiment, 2 from the 101st, 1 from the 507th. All lost. All looking for leadership. "You know where we are?" one asks. "A kid from Ohio. Can't be more than 19. Behind German lines," Dutch says. "That's all that matters. We need to link up with our units," another says. "We are a unit," Dutch says. "Right now, the 4 of us. We move at night, hide during the day, head west, questions." They follow him. By dawn, there are 7 of them. By the second night, 12, eventually 18. Men from 6 different companies, 3 different regiments, all of them lost, all of them following the short sergeant with the injured ankle who refuses to slow down. Dutch walks point despite his injury. "You're hurt," someone says. "Let someone else take point. I'm hurt, not dead." For 10 days, he leads them through German territory. They travel at night, navigate by stars and compass, hide in barns and ditches during the day. They fight when they have to. 3 firefights, 2 ambushes, 1 night attack on a German supply convoy, 0 casualties. On the 4th night, Dutch kills his first man up close, not from 100 yards with a rifle, not from cover, up close, close enough to see his face. They're moving through a grove of trees near Sainte-Mère-Église. Dutch is on point, always on point. He rounds a tree and there's a German soldier, maybe 20 feet away, smoking a cigarette, leaning against a trunk, taking a break from guard duty. The German sees Dutch, His eyes go wide. He reaches for his rifle. Dutch is faster. Thompson up. 3 rounds. Center mass. The German drops without making a sound. Dutch walks over, looks down at the body. The German is young. 19. Maybe 20. Dark hair. Slight build. Scared eyes that will never be scared again. He looks like Vincent. Dutch stands there for 10 seconds, just stands there, looking. The other men are asking if he's okay. Dutch doesn't hear them. He's thinking about Vincent, about the promise, about how he's keeping that promise by killing kids who look like his little brother. He doesn't sleep that night, or the next, or the next. He sees the kid's face every time he closes his eyes. He'll see it every night for the rest of his life. On June 17th, they link up with Allied forces near Quarantaine. All 18 men, every single one alive. Silver Star, for extraordinary gallantry behind enemy lines. 18 men returned, 0 casualties. Dutch doesn't feel like a hero. He feels like a man who can't forget the kid who looked like Vincent. September 17th, 1944, Holland, Operation Market Garden. The largest airborne assault in history. 35,000 paratroopers dropping into the Netherlands to capture a series of bridges across the Rhine. If it works, the Allies will be in Germany by Christmas. It doesn't work. The British 1st Airborne Division lands at Arnhem and gets surrounded by SS Panzer divisions that weren't supposed to be there. For 9 days they fight and die in the streets. Only 2,000 of 10,000 men make it out. The bridge too far enters military history as a lesson in what happens when ambition exceeds capability. But Dutch doesn't know about the big picture. He only knows his mission. Support the landings, secure the drop zones, kill Germans. Charlie Company lands near Nijmegen. The drop is clean, no casualties. They secure their objective within 2 hours, standard operation. Then Dutch notices something. 3 German 20mm Flak Vierling anti-aircraft guns are firing at incoming Allied gliders. The gliders carry reinforcements, jeeps, artillery pieces, ammunition, medical supplies. If those guns keep firing, hundreds of men will die before they even touch ground. The gun position is dug in on high ground near Vauxhall. Approximately 20 German soldiers manning the weapons and providing security. Sandbags, camouflage netting, interlocking fields of fire. Dutch has 3 men with him, his fire team. That's it. Standard military doctrine says you need a 3-to-1 advantage to assault a prepared position. Dutch has the opposite. He's outnumbered 7-to-1. He looks at his 3 men. We're taking those guns. One of them is David Chen, 22 years old, from San Francisco. He's been Dutch's fire team leader since Normandy. Smart, quick, reliable, the kind of soldier you want beside you when everything goes wrong. Sarge, Chen says, that's 20 Germans. There's 4 of us. I can count, Dutch says. It you coming or not? Chen grins. Wouldn't miss it. They assault uphill. Dutch leads, Thompson firing in short bursts. The Germans are focused on the gliders. They don't see the 4 Americans until it's too late. Dutch kills the security detachment. 6 men at close range. Chen and the other 2 storm the gun emplacements. Grenades, point-blank rifle fire. It's brutal, savage, no quarter given. 3 minutes later, all 3 guns are silent. 20 Germans dead, 4 Americans standing. The gliders land safely. 200 men who would have died hit the ground alive. Distinguished Service Cross. 4 against 20. All 3 guns destroyed. 200 gliders landed safely. But Dutch doesn't care about the citation. Because David Chen is dying in his arms. A German officer, playing dead, waited until they turned away, shot Chen in the back 3 times. By the time Dutch turned and killed the officer, it was too late. Chen's blood is hot. It soaks through Dutch's gloves. Chen's eyes are wide, surprised, like he can't believe this is happening. Dutch, he whispers. Dutch, I can't. You're okay. Dutch lies. Medic's coming. You're okay. Chen tries to smile. Bullshit, we both know. He coughs, blood on his lips. Don't let them take you alive, Dutch. Promise me. I promise. Chen dies 20 seconds later. Dutch carries his body down the hill, all the way back to the aid station. He doesn't let anyone else touch him. They bury Chen the next day. Quick ceremony. No time for more. There's a war to fight. Dutch stands at the grave, doesn't cry, doesn't pray, just stands there. Don't let them take you alive. He won't. December 17th, 1944. 2 days after the Germans launched their Ardennes offensive. 1 day after Malmedy. Dutch sits in the company command post, a requisitioned farmhouse. The walls are pockmarked with bullet holes from previous fighting. It's cold. Their breath makes clouds in the air. The casualty list from Malmedy just came in. 84 names. Men from the 285th Field Artillery Observation Battalion. Executed. Shot down like animals while their hands were raised. Dutch reads through the list. Third name from the bottom. Robert Chen. Private First Class, 20 years old, David Chen's cousin. Dutch folds the paper, puts it in his pocket, walks outside. The snow is falling, heavy, wet, the kind that soaks through everything. He stands there, letting it cover him. He thinks about David, about the German officer who shot him in the back, about Robert Chen, 20 years old, murdered in a field with his hands up. He thinks about his father, about Belleau Wood, about promises made. He pulls out a piece of paper, writes a letter to his wife Beatrice. They married in 1943. Right before he shipped overseas, she's back in Pittsburgh, waiting, worrying. The letter is short. B. If you're reading this, I'm probably gone. I need you to know something. If I'm captured, I won't be coming home. Not as a prisoner, not ever. I've decided I'd rather die fighting than die kneeling. This isn't about heroism, it's about keeping a promise I made a long time ago, to myself, to my father, to David. I will never run, I will never surrender, no matter what. I love you, I'm sorry, Dutch. He seals the envelope, gives it to the company clerk. If I don't make it, mail this. The clerk takes it, doesn't ask questions. Dutch walks back outside. The snow is still falling. Somewhere in the forest, Germans are massing for another attack. The Battle of the Bulge is just beginning. It will be the largest battle the American Army fights in World War II, and 89,000 American casualties before it's over. Dutch Novak will be one of the men who survives. But first, he has to survive tomorrow. January 28, 1945. Charlie Company command post somewhere in Belgium. The German offensive has been broken. Now the Allies are pushing back, taking back the ground they lost, village by village, house by house, mile by mile. Charlie Company gets orders. Take the village of Holzheim. Secure it. Hold it. There's a problem. The company is at 30% strength. They've been fighting for 6 weeks straight. The executive officer was killed 3 days ago. They don't have enough men for a proper assault. The company commander looks at Dutch. You're acting XO as of now. We need every man who can hold a rifle. I don't care if they're clerks or cooks or goddamn quartermasters, round them up. Dutch walks to the company headquarters tent. Inside are the support personnel, the men who normally never see combat, typists, supply sergeants, radio operators, mechanics, cooks, 30 of them. They look up as Dutch enters. They know what's coming. Grab your weapons, Dutch says. You're infantry now. We're taking a village. One of them stands. Eugene Kowalski, 19 years old, from Detroit. He's been typing morning reports and requisition forms for 8 months. He enlisted to fight but ended up behind a typewriter because he could type 90 words per minute. Sarge, Eugene says. His voice shakes. I went through basic, but I've never actually shot at another human being. Dutch finishes. I know. You will tomorrow. Questions. Eugene sits back down, pale, scared. The others don't say anything. They gear up in silence. M1 rifles, ammunition, grenades, field gear. Some of them haven't worn combat equipment since basic training. They struggle with the straps, the buckles, the weight. Dutch watches them, thinks about D-Day, about the 18 men he led through 40 miles of German territory. About David Chen. These men aren't soldiers, not yet. But they will be. He'll make sure of it, or they'll all die trying. The march to Holzheim is 15 miles through waist-deep snow, in a driving blizzard, temperatures well below freezing. German artillery shells explode around them. harassing fire from the flanks, random, meant to slow them down, demoralize them. Eugene walks beside Dutch, stumbling, breathing hard. "How do you do it?" Eugene asks. "How do you just keep going?" Dutch doesn't answer for a minute. They push through a snowdrift that comes up to their chests. "You don't think about the whole march," Dutch finally says. "You think about the next step, then the next one, then the one after that. You keep taking steps until there are no more steps to take. What if I freeze? What if I see a German and I just freeze?" "You won't." "How do you know?" "Because I'll be standing next to you," Dutch says. "And if you freeze, you'll get me killed. You won't do that." Eugene nods, keeps walking. They reach the outskirts of Holzheim at 2 in the afternoon. 15 houses arranged around a central square. Smoke rising from chimneys, Germans in every building. Dutch organizes the assault. He splits his 30 clerks into 3 squads, assigns each squad a sector, explains the plan. "We clear house by house. I go in first. You follow. You shoot anything that moves. You don't hesitate. You don't think. You shoot. Understood?" They nod, terrified but ready. The assault begins. Dutch kicks in the first door, Thompson up. A German soldier is sitting at a table eating soup. He looks up, surprised. His rifle is leaning against the wall. 5 feet away, Dutch shoots him before he can stand. Eugene comes in behind Dutch, sees the dead German. The blood. The soup bowl overturned on the floor. He vomits. Dutch grabs his shoulder. "Later. Right now we move." They clear 15 houses, Germans in 12 of them. Short, brutal, close quarters fighting, rifle fire, grenades, bayonets when the ammunition runs low. Eugene kills his first German in the 4th house. The German comes around a corner. Eugene fires without thinking. 3 shots. Center mass. The German drops. Eugene stares at the body, shaking. "You just saved 3 lives, Dutch says. "Mine. Yours. Kowalski's behind you. That's all that matters. Keep moving." 45 minutes later, Holzheim is secure. 80 German prisoners corralled in a farmhouse yard. Hands up. Weapons piled in the snow. Defeated, demoralized, 0 American casualties. Eugene sits on a stone wall, still shaking. Dutch sits beside him. "I killed a man," Eugene says. "Yes. I keep seeing his face." "You will," Dutch says, "for the rest of your life, every night, just like I see mine." "Does it get easier?" "No." Eugene looks at Dutch. "Then how do you keep doing it?" Dutch doesn't answer right away. He looks at the farmhouse, at the 80 prisoners, at his 30 clerks who are now combat veterans whether they wanted to be or not. "Because if I stop," Dutch finally says, "men like you die. And I promised myself a long time ago that I'd never let that happen if I could prevent it." The battalion commander arrives an hour later, stares at the secured village, the 80 prisoners, the 30 exhausted clerks. "Sergeant Novak," he says, "how the hell did you do this with clerks and cooks?" "They're not clerks anymore, sir," Dutch says. "They're soldiers." The commander nods. "Keep 4 men here to guard the prisoners. Take the rest and secure the eastern edge of town. We've got reports of German stragglers in that sector." Dutch looks at the 80 prisoners, looks at the 4 youngest members of his makeshift platoon, Eugene Kowalski and 3 others, barely 19, all of them. "You 4 stay here," Dutch says. "Guard these prisoners. I'll be back in 20 minutes, just 20 minutes. You'll be fine." Eugene nods. "Yes, Sarge." Dutch and the others head toward the eastern sector. He doesn't know what's about to happen behind him. He doesn't know that in 20 minutes he'll walk back around that farmhouse corner and find 90 Germans with weapons pointed at 4 Americans kneeling in the snow. He doesn't know that in 25 minutes he'll be laughing with a gun pressed against his stomach and 45 seconds away from either death or legend. Right now, at this moment, Leonard Dutch Novak is just a tired sergeant trying to keep his men alive one more day. He's about to become something else entirely, something the Germans will whisper about in fear for the next 40 years. Der lachende Dämon, the laughing demon. But that story begins 20 minutes from now. When everything goes wrong, 2:30 in the afternoon, 20 minutes after Dutch leaves the farmhouse. Eugene Kowalski stands guard over 80 German prisoners. His M1 rifle feels heavy in his hands. He's been holding it for 20 minutes and his arms are starting to shake. Not from the weight, from the adrenaline still coursing through his system. He killed a man today, shot him 3 times, watched him fall, watched him die. The German prisoners sit in the snow. Some of them are wounded, bandages soaked through with blood. Others stare at nothing, shell-shocked, defeated. A few watch Eugene with hate in their eyes. The other 3 guards are spread out around the perimeter. Private Harold Miller, 20 years old, former mechanic. Private First Class Tommy Brennan, 21, was studying to be a teacher before the war. Corporal James Hartley, 23, worked in his father's hardware store. 4 men, 80 prisoners. The math should work. The prisoners are disarmed. Their weapons are piled 30 feet away. A stack of Mauser rifles, a few MP40s, some pistols, all of it under the snow that keeps falling. The prisoners should stay prisoners. That's not what happens. Eugene sees them first. 12 figures moving through the blizzard, white winter camouflage capes over their uniforms. At this distance in this weather, they look almost identical to Americans in winter gear. Eugene assumes they're reinforcements from battalion. He lowers his rifle. By the time he realizes his mistake, it's too late. The 12 Germans move fast, organized. This is a patrol that's been operating behind American lines. They know what they're doing. They've done this before. They're on the 4 guards before anyone can shout. Miller goes down, Brennan disarmed, Hartley overwhelmed, Eugene grabbed, thrown down. A German stands over him. MP40 aimed at his face. Nicht bewegen! The German patrol leader barks orders, fast, efficient. The 4 American guards are dragged to the center of the farmyard, forced to their knees. Hands locked behind their heads. The 80 prisoners stir. Confusion at first, then understanding, then hope. The patrol leader moves to the weapons pile, starts distributing rifles. The prisoners stand, take weapons, check them, work the bolts. They're armed again. 80 prisoners plus 12 from the patrol, 90 Germans, all armed, all free, and Charlie Company is scattered across Holzheim, not expecting an attack from behind. The patrol leader is Hauptmann Klaus Richter, 35 years old, Eastern Front veteran. He wears an iron cross at his throat, Knight's Cross with oak leaves. Richter survived Stalingrad. Of 300,000 who entered that city, fewer than 6,000 came out. He was one of them. He doesn't believe in victory anymore. Only survival. That's why he's still alive when better men are dead. He doesn't take chances, doesn't trust luck, believes in overwhelming force. That's why he's going to kill these Americans, not from hate. Because if he doesn't, they'll kill him. He positions his men carefully. The 2 MG-42s cover the main approaches, interlocking fields of fire. Riflemen in windows, behind walls, in covered positions. When the Americans come back, they'll walk into a kill zone. Textbook ambush. He glances at the 4 American prisoners kneeling in the snow. Kids, 19, maybe 20, office workers playing soldier. Richter feels nothing. They chose this. Now they'll die for it. He checks his watch. 2:45. The Americans have been gone 15 minutes. They said they'd be back in 20. 5 more minutes. He settles in to wait. Then someone rounds the corner of the farmhouse. An American sergeant. Short. 5'5" at most, skinny, looks like he weighs about 140. He's got a Thompson submachine gun slung over his shoulder. He's alone. He rounds the corner and stops, just stops, stands there, taking in the scene. 90 armed Germans, 4 Americans kneeling, weapons everywhere. The sergeant's face doesn't change. No panic, no fear, no surprise, just processing. Richter strides forward. This is their leader. Has to be. Sergeant stripes on his sleeve. This is the man who took the village, who captured Richter and his men in the first place. This is the prize. Richter grabs his MP40, closes the distance in 4 strides, shoves the barrel into the American's stomach, hard, makes sure he feels it. Ergeben Sie sich! Richter screams. Surrender! The American just looks at him. Blank expression. Richter screams louder. Ergeben Sie sich! Waffe fallen lassen! Surrender! Drop your weapon! The American's face doesn't change. Richter feels frustration rising. This American is mocking him. Jetzt! Richter screams. Now his men are watching. 90 Germans, all armed, all waiting. This American needs to surrender, needs to drop his weapon, needs to kneel like the others. Then Richter will give the signal. Then his men will kill them all. The American's mouth opens, then he starts laughing. Dutch's brain runs calculations. 90 Germans, 1 Thompson, 30 rounds, 3 spare magazines, 120 rounds total. Needs 3 bullets per German, that's 276 rounds, 156 short of a miracle. The officer screaming. MP40 pressed into his gut. 1 squeeze and Dutch is dead. Dutch doesn't speak German, has no idea what the officer is saying. But the meaning is clear. Surrender, drop weapon, kneel, then die. He read the Malmedy list, 84 names, men who surrendered, men who died kneeling. David Chen's last words, don't let them take you alive. His father, the river, the promise, I will never run, never surrender, no matter the cost. His brain presents options. Surrender, hope for Geneva Convention, probability 3% based on Malmedy. Fight, draw and shoot, die immediately, probability 0.1%. Run, die running like his father, probability 0. That option was never available. No fourth option, no miracle, no rescue, just 3 ways to die. Then his brain notices something. The officer is losing control, screaming, frustrated, wants compliance, wants surrender, wants control. What if you take that away? What if you confuse him so badly he doesn't know what to do? 3 seconds of confusion, 3 seconds where he doesn't pull the trigger, 3 seconds to grab the Thompson. It's not a plan, it's desperation. But Dutch is dead anyway, so what does he have to lose? So Dutch Novak does the only thing he can think of that might buy him those 3 seconds. He laughs. It starts as a smile. Just the corners of his mouth turning up. The German officer sees it. His face gets redder. He screams louder, Ergeben Sie sich! The smile becomes a grin. There's something absurd about this. This officer screaming in German at someone who doesn't understand German. Expecting compliance through volume. The grin becomes a chuckle. The officer's face goes from red to purple. What the chuckle becomes a laugh. Full, genuine. Dutch bends forward slightly, shoulders shaking. I don't understand a damn word you're saying, Dutch says through the laughter. Some of the German soldiers start laughing too. They can't help it. The absurdity is infectious. Their officer is screaming at this tiny American sergeant who's just standing there laughing with a gun in his gut. The officer looks around, sees his own men laughing, his authority crumbling, his control slipping. Ruhe! He screams at them. Silence. Dutch laughs harder. He's committed now. All in. The officer is losing control, and every second that passes is 1 more second Dutch is still alive. 3 seconds, that's all he needed. He's gotten 7. He bends over further. Like the laughter is too much. His hands come up. 1 hand on his stomach, the other reaching up toward his face. Except his hand doesn't go to his face. It goes to his Thompson. The German officer watches, still screaming, but watching. He thinks Dutch is surrendering his weapon. Finally. Dutch's hand closes around the Thompson's grip. His finger finds the trigger. The weapon is still pointing at the ground. He's still laughing, still bent over. The officer's face shows confusion now, mixed with rage. This American isn't acting right, isn't following the script. Eugene Kowalski, still kneeling in the snow with his hands behind his head, watches Dutch. Sees the hand on the Thompson. Understands what's about to happen. He starts shifting his weight, getting his feet under him, ready to move. The other 3 guards see Eugene, see Dutch. They understand too. 10 seconds have passed since Dutch started laughing. The Germans are confused, off balance, watching their officer try to regain control. Dutch thinks about David Chen, about his father, about Vincent back home, about Beatrice waiting for a letter that might never come. He thinks about Eugene Kowalski, 19 years old, killed his first man 2 hours ago, kneeling in the snow with a German rifle pointed at his head. He thinks about the promise he made when he was 18. I will never run. Dutch stops laughing. Dutch swings the Thompson down, 1 fluid motion, muscle memory from thousands of hours of training. The weapon comes off his shoulder. The barrel comes into line. His finger is already on the trigger. The German officer sees it happening. His eyes go wide. His mouth opens to shout. Dutch squeezes the trigger. The Thompson roars. 8 rounds hit Klaus Richter in the chest. At contact range, the impact lifts him off his feet, throws him backward. His MP40 fires. 1 round goes wide, buries itself in the farmhouse wall. Richter is dead before his body hits the snow. Second 3. Dutch pivots. The Thompson is still firing. He sweeps the barrel across the Germans nearest to him. 6 more Germans drop. Killed before they can raise their rifles, Dutch is screaming, "Gene, get their guns! Get the guns!" Eugene moves, throws himself sideways, grabs the nearest Mauser rifle from a dead German's hands, rolls, comes up aiming. The Thompson clicks empty. 30 rounds gone in 3 seconds. Second 6. This is the moment. A Thompson takes 2.1 seconds to reload. Dutch has done it 10,000 times. Magazine release. The empty magazine drops. His left hand is already moving to his belt, grabbing a fresh magazine, bringing it up, slamming it home. Right hand working the bolt. 2.1 seconds. During those 2.1 seconds, every German in that farmyard could kill him. They don't, because they're in shock, because their officer just died, because this American was laughing and now he's killing, because Dutch is moving, lateral movement to his right, never standing still. Harold Miller isn't moving. He's lying face down. A German soldier stands over him. Rifle aimed at Miller's head, about to execute him. Eugene shoots the German. 3 rounds. The German drops. Miller rolls over, grabs the dead German's rifle, starts firing. Second 10. Dutch's Thompson is loaded. He's firing again. Short bursts. Controlled, picking targets. The Germans are starting to react, starting to return fire. Bullets crack past Dutch's head. 1 round hits the farmhouse wall beside him, sprays wood splinters across his face. He keeps firing, keeps moving. Tommy Brennan and James Hartley grab rifles, start shooting from prone. They're low, hard to hit. They've got good fields of fire. The Germans are caught in a crossfire. Dutch in front, Eugene and Miller on the left, Brennan and Hartley on the right. Second 15, Dutch sees a German bringing an MG42 into position. If that gun starts firing, this is over. Dutch empties his Thompson at the gun crew. 20 rounds. The gunner drops. The assistant gunner tries to take over. Dutch's last 10 rounds kill him too. The MG42 falls silent before it ever starts firing. Second 20, Dutch is out of ammunition again. He drops behind a stone wall, reloads. His hands are shaking now. Adrenaline, fear. He can hear Eugene firing, methodical, controlled. He can hear Brennan and Hartley, short bursts, good fire discipline. He can hear the Germans shouting, screaming, chaos, good, chaos is good. Second 30, Dutch comes back up, Thompson loaded. He picks his targets. A German trying to organize a squad. Dutch kills him. Another German trying to bring a machine gun into action. Dutch kills him too. The Germans are breaking. Some throw down their weapons, raise their hands, others try to run. Eugene shoots a German who's aiming at Dutch. The German drops. Miller shoots another one, then another. Brennan's rifle clicks empty. He reloads. Smooth. Fast. Second 40. The firing slows. Sporadic now. The Germans who are still alive are either surrendering or dying. Dutch's Thompson clicks empty again. He reaches for another magazine. His last one. He doesn't need it. Second 45. Silence. The kind of silence that comes after violence. When the gunfire stops and all you can hear is ringing in your ears and men moaning in the wind. Dutch stands. Thompson ready. Scanning for targets. There are none. 45 Germans are standing with their hands up. Their rifles are on the ground. Their faces are white, shocked. 21 Germans are dead, more than 20 are wounded, lying in the snow, bleeding, crying. Klaus Richter is dead, 8 bullets in his chest. His iron cross is soaked with blood. His eyes are still open, still staring at nothing. Eugene is standing, rifle smoking. He's breathing hard, shaking, but alive. Miller is alive. Brennan is alive. Hartley is alive. All 4 guards, still alive. Dutch looks down at Richter's body, looks at the 21 dead Germans, looks at his 4 men. That, Dutch says, was the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Eugene starts laughing. Not humor, hysteria, relief. The laughter of a man who should be dead but isn't. The others join in, all 4 of them, standing in a farmyard full of bodies, laughing like maniacs. The German prisoners watch them. These Americans are insane, led by a demon who laughs at death. They don't know his name yet. They will soon. When the stories spread, der lachende Dämon, the laughing demon, the man who laughed at 90 rifles and killed 21 men in 45 seconds. Dutch doesn't feel like a demon. He feels exhausted. His hands are shaking. His legs are weak. The adrenaline is wearing off. He sits down on the stone wall, the Thompson across his lap. Eugene sits beside him. "Sarge," he says, his voice is hoarse. "I thought we were dead." "We were," Dutch says. "We decided not to be." "How did you know it would work?" Dutch looks at him. "I didn't." Eugene processes this. "So you just decided to try anyway?" "What else was I going to do, Neil?" Eugene doesn't have an answer for that. They sit there, surrounded by bodies, waiting for the rest of Charlie Company to arrive. Dutch thinks about his father, about the promise, about David Chen, about Klaus Richter. He thinks about the man Richter was before he died. Someone's son, someone's brother, maybe someone's father, a man who survived Stalingrad, who earned medals, who probably thought he'd make it through the war, a man who died because he underestimated the wrong American. Dutch doesn't feel pride, doesn't feel triumph, just tired, so tired. He's killed 47 men in this war, 21 of them in the last 45 seconds. He'll kill more before it's over. He knows that. There will be more fighting, more dying, more nights where he can't sleep because he sees their faces. But right now, in this moment, he's alive. His men are alive, and that's enough. The rest of Charlie Company arrives 28 minutes later. They round the corner and stop. Just stop, staring. 21 dead Germans, 24 wounded, 45 with their hands up, 4 Americans sitting on a stone wall, all of them covered in blood, none of it theirs. The company commander walks up to Dutch. "Sergeant Novak, what happened here?" Dutch looks up at him. "They wanted to surrender again, sir. I helped them decide faster." The commander looks at the bodies, looks at the prisoners, looks at Dutch's 4 men. He's doing math in his head, trying to figure out how one sergeant with a Thompson and 4 clerks with rifles killed 21 Germans and wounded 24 more in a farmyard full of 90 armed enemy soldiers. The math doesn't work. It shouldn't be possible. But the bodies are real. "How many of them did you kill?" "I didn't count, sir." "Take a guess." Dutch shrugs. "Most of them." The commander nods slowly. "I'm putting you in for the Medal of Honor." Dutch doesn't respond, just sits there, staring at nothing. The commander walks away, starts organizing. Eugene leans toward Dutch. "Medal of Honor, Sarge. That's the big one." "Yeah," Dutch says. "You're a hero." Dutch looks at Richter's body, at the iron cross on his chest, at his open eyes staring at the sky. "No," Dutch says. "I'm just someone who wouldn't kneel." He stands, walks away from the farmhouse, away from the bodies. He finds a quiet spot behind a ruined barn, sits down in the snow, puts his head in his hands. And for the first time since D-Day, Leonard Dutch Novak cries. Not from fear, not from relief, from exhaustion, from the weight of 47 dead men, from the knowledge that he'll carry their faces for the rest of his life, from the understanding that he just became something he never wanted to be. A legend, a ghost story, a demon, and the war isn't even over yet. 3 hours after Holzheim, Charlie Company command post, 5 German prisoners sit in the basement, separated, each in a different room. Intelligence officers are questioning them. The math still doesn't work. Gefreiter Ernst Vogel, 23 years old, from Bremen. The American intelligence officer sits across from him. A lieutenant, speaks perfect German. "Tell me what happened," the lieutenant says in German. Vogel stares at his hands. They're still shaking. 3 hours later and they won't stop. "He laughed," Vogel says. "Who laughed?" "The American. The sergeant. Hauptmann Richter had his weapon in the sergeant's stomach, was screaming at him to surrender. And the sergeant, he just laughed." The lieutenant writes this down. "Then what? Some of us started laughing too. We couldn't help it. It was absurd, this tiny American laughing while our Hauptmann screamed, and then—" Vogel stops. His hands shake harder. And then, the lieutenant prompts. And then the Hauptmann was dead, just dead. 1 second he was screaming, the next second he was flying backward with blood everywhere, and the American was still laughing. Except now he was shooting, and men were dying. And I thought he was a demon. A demon. Der lachende Dämon, Vogel whispers. We saw him laugh at death. We saw him kill Richter with a gun pressed to his own stomach. How does a man do that? The lieutenant writes this down too. What did you do? I tried to shoot him, we all did, but he was moving, always moving. 21 dead in seconds, and then it was over. And those of us still alive were putting our hands up because we knew. We knew if we didn't surrender, he would kill us all. The intelligence officers compile reports from 5 prisoners. 5 consistent stories. The sergeant laughed, then killed their commander, then killed 20 more men, then accepted their surrender. The report goes up the chain, division by nightfall, corps by morning, chafe by week's end. Everyone wants to know about the laughing sergeant. Captured German assessment subject displays behavior inconsistent with doctrine. Aggressive action when significantly outnumbered. Laughter appears to have been psychological warfare technique. Exploited confusion to initiate attack at point-blank range. Recommend avoid engagement with American paratroop NCOs. If unavoidable, immediate overwhelming force. The American officer makes a note. They're afraid of him. Good. February 3, 1945. U.S. Army War College, Carlisle, Pennsylvania. A classroom full of officers, majors, and colonels, all combat veterans, all pulled from the European theater for this conference. A major stands at the front. He's got a pointer and a chalkboard. On the board are numbers, 90 enemy combatants, all armed. Prepared defensive position, 5 friendly combatants, 1 submachine gun, 4 rifles. Expected outcome, complete friendly casualty rate, 100%. Actual outcome, 21 enemy killed, 24 enemy wounded, 45 enemy captured, 0 friendly killed, 0 friendly wounded. Variance from expected outcome statistically impossible. The major lets this sink in. The officers are staring at the numbers, doing their own math. This didn't happen. This couldn't have happened, but it did. Gentlemen, the major says, let me introduce you to the Novak principle. He flips the chalkboard. On the other side is a breakdown of the action, timeline, positions, movements. First Sergeant Leonard Novak, Charlie Company 508th Parachute Infantry. On January 29, 1945, Sergeant Novak encountered 90 armed German soldiers who had recaptured 4 American guards. Standard doctrine suggests 3 options. Withdraw and call for support, attempt negotiation, or surrender. The major pauses. Sergeant Novak chose a 4th option, aggressive immediate action. He induced confusion in the enemy commander through unconventional behavior, specifically laughter when faced with a weapon at point-blank range. This created a 3-second window of confusion. He exploited this window to eliminate the enemy commander and initiate combat at contact range. A colonel in the front row raises his hand. Major, you're telling us this sergeant's tactic was to laugh at the enemy? The laugh was psychological warfare. It confused the enemy commander, made him uncertain, bought Sergeant Novak time to position his weapon and prepare for engagement. That's insane. Yes, sir. The German prisoners called him der lachende Dämon, the laughing demon. They believe he was psychotic. We believe he was calculating. The major uses his pointer. Initial engagement. Novak eliminates enemy commander with first burst. 8 rounds. Contact range. Commander dead in 3 seconds. Immediate leadership vacuum. Enemy loses command and control. Novak pivots. Engages nearest threats. 6 more casualties. Total time 6 seconds. 9 enemy casualties. Friendly casualties 0. During reload, Novak maintains lateral movement, never presents static target. Friendly forces engage from prone, crossfire, enemy caught between 2 fields of fire. Novak identifies high-value targets, eliminates gun crews, prevents force multipliers from becoming effective. Total engagement time 45 seconds, 21 enemy killed, 24 wounded, 45 captured, friendly casualties 0. The room is silent, officers taking notes. The Novak principle. The major writes on the board is this. When significantly outnumbered and facing certain death, aggressive psychological disruption combined with immediate violent action can create temporary numerical parity through enemy confusion and leadership elimination. He underlines it. This is now doctrine. As of February 1st, all airborne units are being trained in the Novak principle. When conventional options are exhausted, unconventional action becomes conventional. How do you train this? An officer asks. You can't train the laugh, the major says. But you can train aggressive action, immediate violence, exploitation of confusion. The principle is universal. He flips another chart. Statistics. Before Holzheim, 0 documented successful engagements at numerical disadvantage greater than 10-1 by single combatant. After Holzheim doctrine distributed 7 successful engagements at numerical disadvantage, between 8-1 and 15-1 in final 3 months of war. Average friendly casualties before doctrine 98% when outnumbered 10-1 or greater. Average friendly casualties after doctrine 43% when applying Novak principle concepts. Gentlemen, the major says, one sergeant in one farmhouse in Belgium changed how we fight. The question is, how do we teach it to every soldier in the U.S. Army? The officers start asking questions. The discussion goes for 2 hours. Nobody mentions that Leonard Novak is still in Belgium, still fighting, still leading men into combat. September 5th, 1945, the White House, Washington, D.C. The war is over. Germany surrendered in May. Japan surrendered 2 weeks ago after Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The killing is finally done. Leonard Novak stands in the Rose Garden. He's 27 years old but looks 40. His hair is prematurely gray, white at the temples. He's wearing his dress uniform. 82nd Airborne, jump wings, rows of ribbons on his chest. Purple Heart with 2 oak leaf clusters, Bronze Star, Silver Star, Distinguished Service Cross. Soon he'll have one more. 45 people in the Rose Garden, Beatrice in the front row. She hasn't seen him in 2 years. He looks older, haunted, but alive. President Harry S. Truman walks toward him. He carries a light blue ribbon. On the end is a 5-pointed star, the Medal of Honor. Truman pins the medal around Dutch's neck. 5 ounces feels like a stone. First Sergeant Novak, on behalf of a grateful nation, the Medal of Honor for extraordinary heroism. Truman adds something personal. I would rather have this medal than be President of the United States. Dutch doesn't know what to say, so he says nothing, just nods, accepts the handshake, stands while photographers take pictures. Inside his head, he's thinking about someone else. Private Harold Miller, 20 years old, killed at Holzheim, not during the 45 seconds. After, German artillery hit the command post that night. Miller was inside. Direct hit. Miller survived Holzheim, survived the impossible, died 6 hours later. Dutch thinks about David Chen, about Robert Chen, about Klaus Richter, about all the faces he sees every night when he tries to sleep. He thinks I'd rather have them back than this medal, but he doesn't say it. You accept the medal. You shake the hands. You smile for the cameras. You say thank you. And later, when nobody's watching, you put the medal in a case and you try not to look at it, because every time you do, you see faces. 21 faces from Holzheim, 47 faces from the whole war. Men who died because you were good at your job, and your job was killing. October 1945, Pittsburgh. Dutch sits in the William Penn Hotel, expensive, a grateful city paid for it. Parade yesterday, 10,000 cheering. Dutch stood on a float and waved, smiled, played the part the whole time, thinking, they have no idea what I am, what I did, what it cost. There's a knock on the door. Dutch opens it. A man in a suit, expensive shoes, Hollywood written all over him. Sergeant Novak Richard Kellerman, Warner Brothers. We want to make a movie about Holzheim. $50,000, Jimmy Stewart, John Ford directing. 50,000, more than his father made in a lifetime, enough to never worry again. All he has to do is sign, Let Hollywood turn 47 dead men into entertainment. I need you to leave, Dutch says. Sergeant, $50,000. I heard you. Leave, now. Why turn down? Dutch thinks about Richter. Real person, real life, real widow, real orphans. Because it's not entertainment. I'm not a hero. I'm just someone who wouldn't kneel. Now get out. Kellerman leaves. Dutch closes the door. The phone rings. He ignores it. Reporters, radio programs, speaking invitations. Everyone wants the story. He's done with it. 2 weeks later, job with the VA, $3,200 a year, processing disability claims, helping veterans navigate bureaucracy. Newspapers, Medal of Honor recipient turns down Hollywood fortune for clerk job. They don't understand. Dutch knows what matters. 47 men never came home. The least he can do is help the ones who did. That's actual heroism, the kind nobody sees, the kind that matters. May 1952. Scranton, Pennsylvania, 7 years after the war. Dutch drives up to a small hardware store, Kowalski's Hardware and Supply. The sign is new, fresh paint. The store is busy. Saturday morning, people coming and going. Dutch goes inside. The bell jingles. Behind the counter is Eugene Kowalski. He's 31 now, heavier, filled out, wedding ring on his finger, 3 kids. Eugene looks up, sees Dutch. His face goes white, then red. Then he's coming around the counter, moving fast. Dutch! Jesus Christ, Dutch! He grabs Dutch in a bear hug, lifts him off the ground. Can't breathe, Gene! Eugene puts him down. You're here. You're actually here. Got your letter. Said you had a store. Thought I'd see it. It's mine. Well, mine and the bank's. But I'm making payments. Doing good, real good. The store is clean, well organized, good inventory. Dutch can see Eugene's skills, the same skills that made him a good clerk, made him a good business owner. You did well, Dutch says. Because of you. Eugene's eyes are wet. You kept me alive. Taught me I didn't have to be afraid. You saved your own life, Gene. You picked up that rifle. You shot back. That was you. You gave the order. If you hadn't done what you did, I'd be dead. Instead, I'm here, wife, 3 kids, business, a life because you wouldn't let me die. Lunch. Pot roast. 3 kids staring at Dutch like he's a movie star. He's uncomfortable. After Eugene shows Dutch the store, I employ 12 people, all veterans, guys who needed work, guys having trouble adjusting. I figured, you gave me a chance. I should give them chances too. Dutch looks at the employees. Some have the look, the 1,000-yard stare, the way veterans move, careful, aware, always watching exits. He recognizes it because he sees it in the mirror every morning. You did good, Gene, Dutch says again. That night, Beatrice asks how it went. Good, he's thriving. You still think it wasn't worth it. 21 men died so Gene could live. Is that fair? I don't know. They were trying to kill you, and now Gene has a future. 12 veterans have jobs, 3 kids have a father. That's worth something. Maybe, Dutch says. He thinks about Klaus Richter, about whether Richter had kids, whether his wife remarried, whether his children grew up hating Americans. He thinks about these things every night. Will think about them for the rest of his life. June 1968, Pittsburgh, Dutch's house. 23 years after Holtzheim. Vincent Novak is 46 now, still living in Pittsburgh, married, 3 kids of his own. He visits Dutch every few months. Today, Vincent brought his oldest son, Daniel, 18 years old, just graduated high school, and he wants to join the army. Dutch can see it in the boy's face, the eagerness, the naivety, the belief that war is like the movies. Dutch knows better. Uncle Dutch, Daniel says, they're in the backyard. Dad said you were in the war, that you won the Medal of Honor, that you're a hero. I was in the war. I did win the Medal of Honor. I'm not a hero, just a survivor. What was it like? Dutch looks at this boy, this kid who's never seen death, never killed anyone, never watched friends die. And sit down, Dutch says, for the first time in 23 years. Dutch tells someone outside his family the whole story. Not the sanitized version, the real version. He tells Daniel about his father, about Belleau Wood, about the coward who couldn't live with his shame, about the river, about the promise. He tells Daniel about D-Day and the 40-mile march, about the 19-year-old German kid who looked like Vincent. He tells Daniel about David Chen dying in his arms, about Malmedy and the 84 names, about Robert Chen. He tells Daniel about Klaus Richter and the 90 Germans and the 45 seconds that defined his life. He tells Daniel about the nightmares, about the faces, about the weight of 47 dead men, about how every time he closes his eyes, he sees them, all of them. He tells Daniel about Harold Miller, about how Miller survived the impossible and died 6 hours later from random artillery, about how there's no justice in war. Daniel listens, doesn't interrupt. His face goes from eager to uncertain to pale to sick. When Dutch finishes, Daniel is quiet for a long time. "So you think I shouldn't join?" Daniel finally says. "I think you should understand what you're signing up for. The Army doesn't need more warriors. The Army needs more medics, more doctors, more people who save lives instead of taking them. But you took lives. You saved people by killing the enemy." "I did, and I'll carry those faces forever. 21 men at Holzheim, 47 total in the war. I can tell you details about every single one. That's what killing does. It stays with you. Forever." Dutch leans forward. "Daniel, war isn't about glory. It's not about being a hero. It's about doing terrible things, because if you don't, worse things happen. I killed 47 men, but I saved hundreds. Is that a fair trade? I don't know. I'll never know. But I do know this: the world doesn't need more killers. The world needs more healers." Daniel processes this. "What should I do?" "That's your choice, not mine, not your father's, yours. But if you're going to serve as someone who brings people home alive, not someone who sends them home dead." Daniel enlists 6 weeks later. Army Medical Corps, medic, serves 2 tours, saves 43 lives, shot twice, survives, becomes a trauma surgeon. By 1990, Dr. Daniel Novak will have saved an estimated 2,847 lives in hospitals across Pennsylvania. And it started because Dutch told him the truth about Holzheim. November 20th, 1992, Braddock Hills, Pennsylvania. 47 years after Holzheim. Leonard Aldrich Novak dies at home. Pancreatic cancer. He's 74 years old. Beatrice beside him, still strong, still loving him. Vincent there, 66 now, holding his hand, crying quietly. Daniel is there, 42 now, full colonel in the Army Reserve, decorated trauma surgeon. Dutch's last words are to Beatrice, whispered, barely audible. "I wish I could have talked to Richter, asked if he had a Vincent too." Beatrice doesn't understand, but she nods, squeezes his hand. Dutch dies at 3:47 in the afternoon, the same time exactly that he walked around the farmhouse corner at Holzheim 47 years ago. Nobody notices the coincidence. They bury him at Arlington National Cemetery, Section 35, grave 23734, among the heroes of every American war. 200 people attend the funeral, most of them veterans. Many of them Dutch helped at the VA. Most of them never knew about the Medal of Honor until they read his obituary. Eugene Kowalski is there, 67 years old, gray-haired. He gives the eulogy. "Dutch Novak taught a typist how to be brave. He taught me that courage isn't about not being afraid, it's about being terrified and doing what needs doing anyway. He saved my life in Belgium. Then he spent 47 years saving other veterans' lives by helping them get benefits, helping them get medical care, helping them navigate a system that didn't always care about them. Dutch cared, always." Eugene pauses, wipes his eyes. "The world remembers him for 45 seconds in a farmhouse. I remember him for 47 years of service. That's the real heroism, not the killing, the saving." Daniel gives the second eulogy. Uncle Dutch carried 47 faces for 47 years. He never forgot the men he killed, never tried to justify it, never glorified it. He just carried the weight and used it to drive him to save more lives than he took. 2,847 lives I've saved as a doctor. That's because Dutch taught me what real courage looks like. After the funeral, after everyone leaves, Eugene stands at the grave, alone, looking at the headstone. Leonard Aldrich Novak, 1st Sergeant, U.S. Army Medal of Honor, 1918, 1992. Eugene whispers, "Thank you, Dutch, for everything." He walks away, leaves a single challenge coin on the headstone. 82nd Airborne. The coin sits there for months. Other veterans add their coins, their medals, their tokens of respect. By the summer of 1993, there are 87 coins on Dutch Novak's grave, from veterans he helped, veterans he saved, veterans whose lives were better because he was in them. The Medal of Honor gets the headlines. The 45 seconds gets the attention, but the 47 years gets the coins. Present day, Fort Liberty, North Carolina, U.S. Army Ranger School, 3rd phase, small unit tactics. A classroom full of Ranger candidates, exhausted, hungry, sleep-deprived. This is intentional. An instructor stands at the front, Master Sergeant, 40 years old, 3 combat tours. He's teaching close quarters battle, actions on contact when outnumbered. "Gentlemen, let me tell you about the Novak principle." He pulls up a slide. Holtzheim, January 29, 1945. The farmhouse, the impossible math. 1st Sergeant Leonard Novak, 5'5", 140 pounds, former clerk. He walked into 90 armed Germans and walked out alive. 21 enemy killed, 0 friendly casualties. This shouldn't be possible. But it happened. The instructor walks them through it. The laugh, the confusion, the immediate violence of action, the lateral movement, the target prioritization, the leadership elimination, the exploitation of chaos. The Novak principle is this: when conventional tactics fail, unconventional action becomes your only option. You create your own advantage. You exploit enemy psychology. You move faster than they can process. You hit harder than they expect. You never stop until they stop you. He shows statistics. 73 documented applications of Novak principle tactics in Iraq and Afghanistan. 89% survival rate when outnumbered 10-1 or worse. This principle saved lives in Fallujah, in Helmand Province, in Mosul. It works because the fundamentals are sound: aggression, initiative, violence of action, psychological disruption. Sergeant, did Novak survive? He did. Turned down $50,000 from Hollywood, worked VA for 47 years, died 92. Last 82nd Airborne MOH from the war. Why did he laugh? The instructor pulls up a final slide, audio transcript, from a 1970 radio interview. The interviewer asked, "Why did you laugh?" Dutch's answer: "I saw my father's face in that German officer's eyes, both of them screaming because they were terrified. My father terrified of being a coward. That officer terrified I wouldn't do what he expected. I laughed because I finally understood. We're all just scared men pretending to be brave. My father pretended by running. I pretended by fighting. That officer pretended by screaming. In the end, we all did what we thought would let us sleep at night. Some of us just sleep better than others." The classroom is silent. The candidates are processing, understanding. "Gentlemen," the instructor says, 45 seconds of combat, 47 years of service. That's the Novak legacy, not the killing, the commitment, the understanding that real heroism isn't about the moment, it's about the lifetime. Class dismissed. The candidates file out. They'll remember this lesson. Some of them will apply it. Some of them will survive because of it. Some of them will go on to teach it to the next generation. The Novak principle lives on, still saving lives, still teaching soldiers how to think when everything is impossible. Dutch Novak chose to fight, and in fighting he changed how America fights. That's the real legacy. Not 45 seconds of legend, 47 years of service. 2,847 lives saved by Daniel. 12 veterans employed by Eugene. Countless veterans helped by Dutch at the VA. 73 applications of the Novak principle in modern combat. The ripple effects of one man who wouldn't kneel, one sergeant who laughed at death, one former clerk who became a ghost story Germans told their children. Der lachende Dämon, the laughing demon. Except he wasn't a demon. He was just a man. A short, tired, haunted man who carried 47 faces and used that weight to drive him to save more lives than he took. That's heroism. Not the kind you see in movies, the kind you live every day, the kind nobody cheers for, the kind that matters, and somewhere in Arlington, Section 35, Grave 23734. There are 87 challenge coins on a headstone. From the people who understood, from the people who knew, from the people whose lives were better because Leonard Dutch Novak was in them. 45 seconds made him a legend. 47 years made him a hero. The difference matters. Remember that. Somewhere in a Belgian farmhouse turned museum, tourists walk past a plaque. Most don't read it. Those who do see a name, a date. 21 killed in 45 seconds. They take pictures, move on, never knowing the full story, never knowing about the coward's son who became a legend by refusing to run, never knowing about the 47 years no one celebrated, never knowing that the shortest man in that farmhouse carried the heaviest weight for the rest of his life. But in Arlington, 87 coins know. In Scranton, 12 veterans know. In hospitals across Pennsylvania, 2,847 lives know. And at Fort Liberty, every ranger who learns the Novak principle knows. The laugh that saved lives, the 45 seconds that changed doctrine, the 47 years that defined heroism. Leonard Dutch Novak, 5'5", 140 pounds, the laughing demon who was just a man who wouldn't kneel.